Good day, I'm Dave, and this is the OFFSITE INSIGHT Podcast, brought to you by the Creative Co-op, Advertising and Design. For all your advertising needs, go to tcco.ca. I'm with David Clark today, the owner of Total Living Concepts.
Well done.
Also the co-host of the OFFSITE INSIGHT Podcast.
You know what? Being on the other side of the table, you're doing a great job, Dave. Well done.
Thanks, Dave. Thank you. Yeah, so why don't you tell me a little bit about Total Living Concepts?
Yeah, so our whole value proposition that we try to, bring to the market here in Barrie and Simcoe County is the idea that renovations are stressful on their own. On its face, it is a stressful process. So it becomes more stressful if you go to a designer and then you have to source the materials yourself and then you have to find a contractor to do the work. There's a natural inherent conflict a lot of times, if you're familiar, between designers and people who are actually building the space. So what we try to do is to put all three of those things together into one place. So you come and see myself, one of our designers, and we walk you through the entire design process. And in the background, we're also working with our head of construction and our carpenters to make sure, does this design make sense? Is this design feasible? Is this something that we're not going to get halfway through the renovation process and be like, oh, wait, we can't do this and now have to change course? So from the consumer perspective, you're working with Dave, and you work with Dave until you're in your new finished space in your home. So, there is still stress in a renovation, especially if you're getting your kitchen done. I speak from personal experience. When we did our kitchen in our last house, it was COVID. We had 3 kids under the age of 7, and my wife was pregnant with our 4th, and we didn't have a kitchen. So that was a very stressful time, but it allows me to have a lot of sympathy and empathy for people that are going through, a kitchen renovation can be a very intrusive thing to happen in your life, but we try to manage it and make sure that the timelines are as short as possible. Everything is organized, so the consumer gets the best end result and has a great new space.
That sounds like a really effective model.
Some days.
Do you have, so from my own experience, I understand that it can be the case that businesses that attempt to do a full package kind of approach have some challenges with the siloing effect. Like you're saying, that's something that you're trying to overcome. Do you have a specific sort of technique or something that you've learned that maybe you could even offer our listeners some advice on how to do that better? And
so before I purchased the company, that was kind of my role. I was brought in, I'm an accountant by trade. That's my background, is I'm an accountant, but a business grad. And my whole idea was, hey, how do we get these two main components, the design staff and the carpentry staff, to really operate more cohesively? So part of that is we always have weekly meetings to kind of go over the status of every job, whether that's a job that's in progress, whether that's a job that's about to start, and also like where are our leads, what's our pipeline look like, what's coming down the track. So that's something that we do. We've also implemented a post-signing meeting. So after we've got the contract signed, we bring in the head of construction, we bring in the purchaser, making sure everyone who has any questions, what are they? Let's get the answer right away so we can mitigate anything that happens closer to the actual start date. And then we also meet with the team, the carpentry team and the designer a week before we actually go to start the project. So we go over, okay, if we're getting a garbage bin, where on the driveway it's going, because the client usually has a preference, and the designer's responsibility is making sure to find out what that preference is and acting on it to give the person who's ordering the bin where the garbage bin is. And that seems like such a simple thing, but we want to make sure that everything is kind of, our T's are crossed and our I's are dotted prior to showing up on site for that first day.
Wow. Okay. So that's actually really impressive. It's not often the case that that construction companies will take that many steps prior to getting shovels in the ground to ensure that their projects are well set up.
Yeah.
And to do that, it's really impressive. Kudos to
So
you.
we're we've done a lot of things right, and I can't take credit for a lot of them. You know, the company's been around a lot longer than I have. But it's also, okay, our methodology or our mindset always has to be, how do we get a little bit better? You know, that 1% every day better. So we're trying to utilize our project management software a little bit better.
Okay.
A lot of our clients sometimes will either travel when they're getting a renovation done, or they'll rent another space while they're getting the renovation done so they can take some of the stress off themselves living in the renovation. And so we use a tool now where they get pictures, updates, all their plans are available on an app on their smartphone. So they can actually see what's going on. I've got a client right now that's in Thailand. So they're on a very different time schedule, but when they wake up, they can see, oh, this is what happened at my house yesterday. We can see the progress that's going on
photos
with photos, with commentary, like, oh, the floor is 3/8 out of level. I didn't know that. I've been walking in this house for 5 years, and I didn't know that underneath the hardwood was out of level by 3/8. What's going on there, right? So we're trying to improve that client communication too. Like, that's another thing that construction companies can struggle with, is client communication. So we actually have a process, like, we generally try to have a carpenter on site every single day, or a tiler or someone, so that the project continues to move forward. But in the event that, you know, life happens and someone calls in sick, or Tyler can't make it, whatever the case may be, we have a phone call every morning to anyone who's not being seen that day, so they can continue to plan the rest of their day. Because if they are anticipating being home to meet someone and that person never shows up, that's a pain point.
Yeah.
They've structured their day around, hey, I've got to let the electrician in at 10 o'clock. And if 10 o'clock comes and there's no electrician, and 10:30 goes by and they haven't heard anything, I can tell you that's a very frustrating experience.
I've had that experience myself, where you sit there all day, plan your day around a technician or somebody showing up.
And then they
large
don't.
windows, and they don't.
Yeah.
You know, or they, you know, and sometimes it's late in the window too, and it can drive you crazy.
It does. So we have a call from the office to say, hey, just, you know, Joe Smith, unfortunately no one's gonna be at your site today. I know we were planning to do this, but it's not gonna happen today. By 8:30 in the morning, they know, okay, I don't have to worry about it. I can continue on. Whereas, like, that's a stressful thing. You're having people in your home, you're expecting them there, and they don't show up. It's not a great feeling.
So you mentioned that you purchased this company.
Yeah.
Do you want to let's take a step back and talk a little bit about the history of your organization?
Yeah. So Total Living Concepts was founded by my father-in-law in 1993, and basically he had been working in the kitchen design industry. He's a Hall of Fame kitchen and bath designer for the NKBA, National Kitchen and Bath Association, and he started the company out of my wife's childhood home basement. We moved to our current location where we have our showroom in 2001. And we've been very fortunate that, you know, I like to think we set the bar in terms of renovations in the area. But that means we have to keep competing. We have to keep getting better, right? Because, you know, it's not hard. The barrier to entry in an industry like this is actually quite low when you think about it. You need to have a general level of know-how, because we compete with the handyman in some ways, but we don't in others. To get back to the origin story of where we are today, Glenn Prairie successfully ran the company for a very long time, and he's still involved, just on a significantly reduced base now. And I think we're getting to the point where Glenn's gonna be like, you know what, like, I'm gonna go travel a little bit more and spend time with Debbie, his wife. So about 4 years ago, I kind of had the opportunity where I was like, I can continue. You know, I was a director of finance for a waste company in town here, and I was successful. It's an American-based company, and I'm not sure if you're familiar, but in the States, it's much more common to be asked to move for work than it is in Canada.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So I was at that company for 2 years, and I was asked to move 3 times. And I had just moved back to Barrie from living in Kitchener-Waterloo. I'm from Oro-Medonte. My wife is from Barrie, so we came back to be closer to our parents while we had young kids. And then I kept getting, will you move to Sarnia? Will you move to London? Will you move to XYZ? And at the same time, Glenn was like, hey, like, you know, I'm thinking of retiring. Like, is there a chance that you might be interested in coming here instead? So it was a little bit of a switch in terms of, yes, I'm an accountant. I was an auditor for a number of years. That's my background. But I spent the first year at Total Living Concepts actually working on the renovation side, building, renovating, working with Jody, causing some headaches and solving some headaches too.
I'm curious about that actually, because in my own experience, I've also done field work as well as office number work.
Yeah.
And when I get home from the field work, it's a different kind of tired, and it's a different kind of it feels different.
Yeah.
And it's a different kind of reward. The number work is also, the office work, administration, that kind of stuff is also tiring. I don't really receive the same award. Did you have a similar kind of experience?
Yeah, totally. And I think there's something to be said. Like I remember, as an auditor or as a director of finance, like you spend your whole day doing, mental tasks, but at the end of the day, when you step back or sit back from your computer, it's still just an abstract number on a computer, right? Like it's still like, I moved these numbers, calculated this, and it's still on my screen. Whereas when you're working like physical labor, or you're a carpenter or you're a plumber, you can step back and be like, oh, look, I built this, or oh, look, I took this apart. And so there's definitely like a satisfaction that comes from that, knowing, hey, like I built this today. Like I could go to my children and be like, hey, like look at what Dad did today. Yeah. Whereas it's like, Dad, what'd you do at work today? Well, I calculated the present value of this project that we're looking at, and they're just like, cool, Dad, like, let's go play cars, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
There's definitely, there's some satisfaction that comes out of the tangible benefit when you're actually working with your hands.
And did that play into your decision to go forward with taking over the business?
Yeah, for sure. I'd actually I've always liked the idea of doing home renovations. I mean, it's a product of, having kids young, is we didn't have a lot of money. And so it was like, hey, if we want to live in a nice house, I got to figure out how to do it. So I learned a lot prior to joining the company. But then it was obviously exponentially increased working day to day with people who are professionals, who know what they're doing, to get some of their insights and understanding some of the building science behind it. Our former head of construction was an R2000 rated builder a number of years ago. So like the idea of performance housing and what that means, and air tightness, and learning all that stuff was super, super cool for me, and something that I really find interesting.
That is cool. That's real cool. And so it's been 4 years since you've taken on the role?
So it's been 4 years since I've been at the company, and it was in December of 2023, which we, signed the paperwork.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about the mentorship that you received from your father-in-law?
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why Glenn has been so successful. He is first and foremost a very talented designer, but he also understands kind of what it means to have pressure points, in a renovation process. And that's kind of like where the genesis of this, company started, is, hey, we want to set the bar. We know renovations are challenging. What can we do to remove or lessen some of those challenges? Glenn's obviously very talented. He's, well respected in the community, in the sense he's a member of Rotary, and he's done lots of things, and we've won, lots of awards at the Simcoe County Home Builders Association level. So there's been a lot of mentorship. We used to meet for breakfast every Monday morning to kind of go over what the strategy is, what we're working on, what the next steps are, where he sees it. Because yes, you can learn a ton from a textbook at university, and you can learn a ton from running a different business. But there's also a lot to be gained from someone who has 40 plus years in the industry, right? Like there are just things that you can't necessarily be taught unless you do it. And so it's been tremendous to have that in my back pocket.
Absolutely. Is that something that you think about for yourself? I mean, are you already thinking about becoming a mentor yourself?
Yeah, so I've spent time actually in a couple different mentor capacities. There was a program, 10,000 Coffees. So I would meet with, undergrad or graduate students from the school that I went to, Wilfrid Laurier, typically more related to career progression, but in the finance area. And so I would meet with them once a week virtually, especially over the pandemic, to just kind of like check in with them. Here's how I manage this type of task, or here's how, I manage my time when I'm looking at this. Because, when you're starting your career, everything's really hard, and everything is, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. And then you add layers to that. You maybe buy your first house, or you're in a relationship, and then you're balancing that and your career. And then maybe you have a kid, and so then you're balancing, your kid and your relationship with your spouse, and then you're also managing your career. So I've spent time trying to help people understand that, because I do balance a lot of different things. So making sure that I can pass that on to one other person has been really fun.
Wow. Yeah. I know that you're really involved in, actually, from what I can tell, in life. I mean, you do CrossFit. Yeah. You have a big family. You run a business.
He brought it up, by the way. I didn't bring up CrossFit.
You're jacked. How do you do it?
So I think from a very early age, I was always involved in a lot of things. I can remember being in high school being like, wow, I'm really busy. I went to ECU, shout out Wildcats. I was playing AAA hockey. I was, doing very well in school academically. I was on student council. By the time I graduated, I kind of had been the captain of multiple teams. I was the student council vice president. There was a lot of things. So I'd always just been busy. I remember, I'd go to school catch the bus at 7:10, get home from football practice at 5 p.m., and then drive to Bala for an hour and 20-minute hockey practice, and then get home at 9:30 and do it all again the next day, right? So I've always been very busy, pros and cons to that. But the variety that I now have is what really keeps me going, because I'm not doing the same thing for 100 hours a week. I'm doing very different things spaced out. And there's obviously a task switching mental challenge there, right? You're not supposed to switch tasks very frequently. But because I've been, yeah, that's right. But because I've been doing it so frequently, and I'm conscious of it, like I have a very short commute from my office to my home, and I've got to switch from, leader boss mode to dad mode. And then I have to switch to coach mode, and then I have to switch to council mode. So just being conscious when I'm entering each different arena that I'm going to, what I need to bring to that.
That's impressive.
Thanks.
Also, so do you practice like mindfulness or anything along those lines? Do you have any tips? Because I know for certain that's something people have major challenges succeeding in.
Totally. And I think it's, I have, guided meditations that I do listen to, especially like in a particular stressful period of time. I will do that. I journal semi-frequently, and part of that is being grateful for the things that we have. And part of that is like, okay, here's how I'm feeling. It's important to like, I think particularly in this day and age, men in particular have a challenge, coming to terms with either their own emotions or their emotional regulation. And so I've been spending a lot of time in the last few years kind of understanding what that is, and how it affects me on a day-to-day level. So just being conscious, I think awareness is more than half the battle in terms of recognizing performance, and awareness of, I'm having struggles with this and it's affecting this. So just bringing awareness potentially to the issue can be really impactful.
Okay, fantastic. Let me think. What are some resources that you'd recommend people use for really anything that we've talked about today? So whether it's starting a business or wanting to become a mentor, or just taking care of themselves and their family?
Yeah, I don't like to use it, but it's almost that idea of minimum viable product. So in the tech world, it's like, and Mark Zuckerberg's famous for saying it, just like move fast and break bleep, right? Yeah. It's the idea that it doesn't have to be, break things. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to exist. So it's the idea of like, you want to be a mentor? Like find somewhere to sign up and start being a mentor.
Go mentor.
And be fully transparent and honest with the person. Hey, look, like I haven't done this before, but I think I have some experience that may help you. And it may not, but I'm here to do my best. My intentions are set to do the right thing. And it's the same thing for starting a business. Like we live in the world where, the entire Alexandrian library is on our smartphone. The information is there. It's just actually starting to do it, right? So that would be my one piece of advice, is just like, if you've got something that you're maybe passionate about or you're curious about, like just start. We have all the tools. Even, if you have a cell phone plan, which most people today do, you have access to maybe all the information that you need, whether that's self-improvement, whether that's, you know, a technical information to do this thing, or how to start a business, or where it is. You have the tools, you have the things available to you now. If you have some confidence and you believe in yourself, then you're already 70% there, right?
Yeah, that's right. A little awareness and
A little awareness.
a little
Yeah.
further. Okay, well, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about specifically today?
No, I mean, I think we're in a very challenging market. The Home Builders Association and the home builders of today. I mean, if we think back to, you know, we were talking to Alex last week or this week about the challenges of being a home builder. And when there's challenges for a home builder, it affects the entire industry. It affects the HVAC designers and the HVAC trades. It affects the, you know, the electricians, the plumbers, the drywallers, the framers. Everyone gets affected when we're not building new homes.
Yeah.
Our value prop has always been, hey, you don't get to choose your neighbors. So if you have neighbors that you love in a street that you love, renovate. Stay there. Don't move to the unknown. If you love your next door neighbor and you've got this great group of people and you love where you live, because they don't make new subdivisions that are highly sought after very often, right?
Right. Not
so
at an affordable price.
it was certainly not an affordable price. So it's like, okay, you know, renovate, make it the space that you want. You're already in the place that you want. And, you know, my wife and I live that every day. We're in the place that we want. Our house is, you know, less than desirable, but we're making steps to do that. It's shoemaker's shoes, right? It's very hard to work on your own house when you're doing everyone else's, but yeah.
Actually, I have a couple more questions on renovation. So you've been at it for about 4 years. Have you noticed, so I'm going to ask two questions.
Sure.
So the first is, what's the most common renovation that people do? And along those lines, what's the most challenging? And then have you noticed things changing?
So we obviously skew towards kitchens and bathrooms because that's what we're known for. That's what we specialize in. So I would say we do those the most. And when you think about it, like the kitchen is, you know, the old cliche is the heart of your home. When you think about it, you spend a lot of time in your kitchen, especially if your kitchen and dining room are connected and are one space. You spend a lot of your waking time in that area. And there's a lot of complexity in a kitchen in terms of you've got plumbing, you've got electrical, you've got cabinetry, you've got countertops, you've got, you know, primary lighting, you've got ambiance lighting, you have appliances, you have a lot going on in a kitchen. And that's where you're going to get, in my opinion, the most value out of your dollar. And it doesn't have to be a lot of money. You can do a refacing, you can make decisions to reuse cabinetry that you already have. But changing a layout, changing a color scheme can actually make a big difference. And then the room that I also say is most challenging that people are sometimes shocked is actually a bathroom. Because not only do you have the plumbing, but you also have the waterproofing that's not to the same extent in a kitchen, right? And in a lot of cases, you've got, you know, 3 or 4 or 5 water generating or using appliances in a much more confined space that also needs to be waterproofed. And, you know, we're getting, you know, we've done renovations where we're putting in steam showers and you have custom glass and you have 2 vanities and you've got heated floors and you've got heated towel bars and you've got powered makeup mirrors. So when you think about it, you're starting to expand the scope of what a bathroom is. And so to answer your second question is we're seeing more and more of the idea that you can have a spa at your own house.
Yeah.
Which isn't for everyone, but also it gets easier and easier. I mean, it wasn't long ago that the idea of a rain head shower, like a rain shower head was like, oh, that's exclusive and extravagant. Well, it's not anymore. So it's little things like that can make it more of a spa-like experience. Oddly enough, my wife and I are doing our bathroom, and it's, you know, it's a very small 3-piece bathroom, but it's also like, hey, you need to showcase what it is that you do on a professional level when people come to your house. So, you know, we've got illuminated cabinetry on the interior. So you open up the drawer, things pop up. You can see what's in your drawer. It works for us because we have young kids. So you open up the drawer and it's illuminated.
Oh.
So you open up this drawer, you know, my wife got her
That's
makeup.
cool.
She doesn't have to turn on all the lights.
Yeah.
And she can see what she's looking for very easily.
Oh, I like that.
You know, there's toe kick lighting, heated floors, and then, you know, it's a small space. We've also got our washroom looks out into our backyard. And so there's a shower, but you can kind of see in that window.
Okay.
In a perfect world, and this is, you know, shout out to Decola Windows, we would like that window to be, you know, you can see out of the window,
Right.
But you know, not necessarily, you know, I'm having my shower and my guests don't want to see that.
Yeah.
So we've actually,
No matter how much CrossFit.
no matter how much CrossFit I do, people don't want to see that. So we've actually, they've got this great new product where there's a switch that changes the opacity of the glass.
Oh,
so you
what?
flick the switch and then it becomes opaque. And
That's
so
cool.
well, not opaque. I think the term would be translucent. So light still comes in,
Yep.
but you can't see through it. Then when you're done the shower and you want that full light to come back in, you flip the switch and you can see back out. So there's lots of cool things that you can put into a bathroom that people don't necessarily know is available yet. So yeah, bathrooms are challenging. It requires a lot of planning, and that's, I think, where that our methodology comes from, is knowing like, oh, you need to know what toilet you're putting in. You need to know if, you know, we always put electrical outlet dedicated for a bidet seat in the future. So, you know, as everyone ages, it's becomes hard to take care of yourself in the bathroom. That's kind of like what John Tom was talking about. So in every bathroom renovation that we do, we future-proof that idea so that as someone ages in their home, they can just add a bidet seat on top of it. The electrical's already there. They're doing this big renovation, but it's also protecting them for the future. So
That's a great value add.
yeah.
Have you had a lot of positive feedback?
It's something that some people are like, well, I don't need that. It's like, okay, great, but the next person who owns your home might.
Yeah.
And you know, you never know what life can bring you. So you know what, maybe you don't need it right now, but people get in car accidents. Things happen all the time where mobility, vision challenges occur, and it's, let's be safe while the walls are open. Let's put that dedicated electrical line in there. And then 99 out of 100 times you're like, oh yeah, that, of course, why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
But you know, you think back 15, 20, 30, 40 years ago, putting an electrical outlet beside the toilet is like,
You're crazy?
you want me to do what? Right? Like, so it's a slow shift in the mentality.
Okay. All right. Well, Dave, I think we've more or less covered it,
Awesome.
and I really appreciate you coming in today.
I think we nailed it.
I think we nailed it.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
If you'd like to join the podcast as a guest, I jumped the gun here. Reach out to us at podcast@schba.ca.
Nicely done. That's a tongue twister.
I might have been practicing at home. And please have a look on YouTube. Oh, wait, I guess. And share it with your friends.
Like
Thank
and
you.
subscribe.
Like and subscribe. Yeah.